Today we have Sid, who is a managing partner at Kinara International. Sid, hello.
Hi, Lorenzo. Hey.
So I think there's technicals. Tell me what Kinara International is.
Right. So ours is a family business. We do manufacturing out of China, and we make things for various different clients. The one that you'll probably recognize the most is if you know Uber Eats, the bright
Wow,
green backpacks that you see on the street. We make those, and so that's
wow.
that's what we do. Yeah.
How did that conversation or how did that whole thing start?
Just right place at the right time. So we've been in China for about 20 years. I used to live
Wow,
out there with my family. We were there for 4 years. One of my kids was born in China. We lived in Hong Kong as well. And we set up a sourcing and manufacturing business there. And it just so happened that a family friend was working at Uber Eats. At the time, they were in Toronto and they were just Uber Taxi, right? The Uber Taxi company. And they had this bright idea, let's try and deliver food. And so we got a frantic call from the friend to say, hey, I need 100 pizza bags as quickly as possible. And so we ended up sort of producing those and shipping them out to Toronto for the first trial. And we've been with Uber Eats ever since and grown with them. And now we're sort of starting to work with Just Eat and others as well.
yeah, they're very iconic brands in the kind of food delivery section of the world. So you're responsible for on can't the sound. And it's green and black on the Breeds packaging, on the back in the back the pizza boxes.
The green and black pizza boxes, yeah, that's right. We do those.
Fine, amazing. And what made you start? I mean, you've got a background in engineering, I see, and I'm actually keen to ask. And there's a military part to this too, right?
Yeah, so at university, I studied engineering with economics and management, and I was headed towards the city, so headed towards banking or consultancy. And I just felt like I didn't want to be behind a desk. I didn't want that to be the rest of my life. And I had this moment where I was walking past the Army Careers Office, and I just thought, you know what, let me just go in and have a chat. And at the time, there were some very clever adverts on the TV. I think Saatchi and Saatchi had the contract, and it was the Army Be the Best slogan, where they would put a scenario on the screen, and then it would blank out. So for example, you would see a soldier walking into an African village, and you desperately need water, and there's only one well, and it's in this village, and the warlord comes out screaming and shouting, waving an AK-47, saying, "No, you can't have any water." And then the screen goes black, and it goes, "What would you do?" And I was like, "Oh,
And what would you
what
do,
would you
Sid?
do?" And I'm like, I don't know, but I want to know. I want to know, what would you do? And then the screen comes back on again, and you see it from the soldier's perspective, and he just takes off his sunglasses and makes eye contact with the warlord, and you see this guy just calm down. And I'm like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be able to have
Wow.
that effect on people. There's another one where you see the soldier running through the jungle being chased by bad guys with bullets, and you get to a ravine and the bridge has been taken out, and then the screen goes black and it goes, "What would you do?" And I'm like, I don't know, but I want to know. What would you do? Um, so the ad campaign was going on, and I was heading for a job in the city, and I'm like, this sounds so boring. So I walked into the Army Careers Office, and I said, "Hey, what's this all about? Like, can you tell me a little bit about it?" And there was a corporal behind the desk, and he said, "Are you at the university?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm at the university, and I've just walked in." He goes, "Yeah, you're in the wrong place." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you want to be an officer, not a soldier." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Tell me more about that," because I really didn't have a clue. He said, "No, you need to go and talk to so and so, Colonel so and so, and set up a meeting." So I did that, and it went really, really well. And the colonel who interviewed me said, "We'd love to have you. It'd be amazing to have you join, and we want people from all walks of life, all nationalities, all ethnicities, and we'd love to welcome you into our family." Now, this is in contrast to when I was going to banking interviews, where I was being told, "We don't need you. You're shit. We'll do you a favor by giving you a job, and you can bring us coffee every morning." So it was a very stark contrast. And I thought, well, you know what? Let me give it a go. They know what they're looking for, and if I do well in the selection process, maybe I'm the right fit. I ended up doing really well in the selections. I got a scholarship, and ended up going to Sandhurst to the military academy.
Wow. And how long was your spell with the military?
Yeah, so it was a year in training at the academy, and then 4 years full-time service, where
Wow.
I was stationed in the UK, in Germany, and the Middle East, and then 4 years of reserve service.
Wow, before reading that in obviously the profile before, I had no idea, but that's it's very inspiring. What was the thing from service in the military? Sounds that what's the biggest thing? What's the biggest thing that that you have learned from your service in the military?
I think the biggest takeaway that's translated into my life afterwards has been working with people. So leading people and managing people and doing that effectively. I don't think you can achieve anything unless you're part of a team, and the whole team has to work together. I mean, one of the key
Yeah.
principles in the army is you're only as strong as your weakest person. And you all make sure that you bring everyone along so that the entire team is uplifted. It's not about leaving the weakest one behind. It's about making sure that person can keep up with everyone else, and supporting them. And if that means sharing the load and taking on more yourself to support them, that's what you do. So that's probably the biggest thing. So leadership and managing people.
And what kind of training have you done to prepare yourself for service, or that you were doing while serving?
Yeah, so there was a
What's
basic
that?
there was a basic fitness test that you had to pass. So pull-ups, press-ups, and a run, and sit-ups. So that was the standard army fitness test. You had to do, I think, a mile and a half in under 10 minutes, and you had to do at least 50 press-ups, 50 sit-ups, and five pull-ups. So that was the basic. And then when you got in, you ended up getting very fit very quickly, because everything was physical as well as mental, and so you marched to lessons. Yeah, and so you're always training. There was PE, a couple of times a day, every day, and then we would go out and train, in on exercise, so out in the woods, running around and carrying logs and empty heavy ammunition tins and stuff like that. So I did a lot of that, but that was, more than 25 years ago. And so I didn't say too much about it when I came to CrossFit because I didn't want to set any expectations. Yes, I was fit
Yeah.
25 years ago, and that's a long, long time. Since then, I've been behind a desk. I've got terrible posture, terrible flexibility, and I'm trying to do something about that.
But I like to give credit to you in the guidance that you have absolutely worked your socks off to look to improve those things. It was only the other day that I think you finished the class and we were just talking about how well that you had progressed from it. And I think that there's certainly that uh, it's this like kind of bred inside you that is just waiting to come out.
Yeah, it's been a while. I've been wanting to do something about my fitness for a while, and so about a year ago, I just said I have to do something, and so I signed up for the London Marathon, and I just thought I need a goal because I'm very goal oriented. I need a goal. I need a line in the sand that I'm working towards. And so I signed up for that, and I said, okay, right now, shit, I've only got 4 months left. I need to get fit. And so I started, running again and getting ready for that. And then once I did that last April, I said, okay, what next? What do I want to do next? And just looking online, researching what's local, what's convenient, and what do I like. And CrossFit came up, and I just thought, yeah, there's a lot there that I really like. I want to get stronger. I want better mobility, and I want to improve my stamina and my fitness. And it seems all three are within the discipline of CrossFit. So I said, yeah, let me give this one a go.
Yeah, I actually usually ask that question right at the beginning of what brought you to CrossFit Harrow, but you summed that up very, very nicely. Um, the discipline to learn from, would you say you'd learned a lot of discipline in a lot of things from the military and they've taken into everyday life?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I, I never had very good discipline. I'm not good I'm not a morning person. So 5 a.m. training is not good. And when I was stationed out in Cyprus, it was too hot to train in the day, so we had to get up at 4 in the morning to train while the sun was still down. And so yeah, I'm not good at discipline. But yes, I did learn a lot in the army about what you have to get done, and sometimes you just got to get on with it. And so I
Yeah,
do.
I would imagine the mental resilience that you've built from those experiences have been pretty strong and pretty good.
Yeah, a lot of it is that. A lot of it isn't actually physical, it's mental. It's
Yeah,
taking yourself to a barrier and then pushing yourself beyond that. The hardest thing I ever did was in week 6 of training, which is where they're trying to cull the most number of people. Essentially, if you don't get past week 6, they don't want you to continue, the course. And so that was a really difficult test. And that was a hundred and something kilometers. I think it was 125 kilometers over 24 hours. And every 25 kilometers there was a special task, right? So whether it was a log carry or a stretcher run or some mental exercise. And so we marched all through the night, all through the next day. Um, and it was tough. And we had a couple of the guys were hallucinating at one point. They'd completely lost it. Um, but you push through, and now I know after that I can look back and say, well, I've done 125 kilometers. Like I've done the hardest thing I'm ever going to do. So everything
yeah,
else should be
you can do
possible.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can
yeah,
do anything.
yeah, exactly that, exactly that. And then when I was training soldiers, it's the same thing. We took them on adventure training exercises where we do a lot of extreme sports, so skydiving and that sort of thing. And people with a fear of heights would struggle, but it's about helping them to get to that point where they
Uh,
can overcome that fear in a relatively safe environment because you've got a parachute and you've got a spare as well. Um, get them to overcome that fear so that when they're in a more difficult situation, again, they know how to overcome a fear.
yeah, the program on telly, not for a while now, the SAS Who Dares Wins. That's quite a common task. You see that they have them at the top of the bridge, they have arms across chest,
Yeah.
have to fall backwards into. I mean, that you need a pair of bollocks to do that. That looks challenging, challenging. So the entrepreneurship of Kinara International, we'll go back to that because I think there's so much that we've missed. How did that start for you? That whole journey from the very beginning.
So after the military, I went into a corporate career, worked in logistics and procurement. So I started with Total, which is a French oil company. I worked in procurement for them. I then moved to. I always had a hunger for. I had an ambition, right, to grow, to make a good amount of money, and I wasn't really progressing with them. So I said, well, where can I go that I could make more money? And I'd grown up in West Africa, so I'd grown up in Nigeria as a kid, and I was educated in the UK, so I was sent to boarding school. So I went back to Nigeria and said, okay, what can I do, over there? So I set up a small business at that time in my 20s, and I was doing engineering products. And that's how I started it. It was tough. I didn't enjoy it. I actually hated it. Um, but I was in the right place, where there were opportunities. I ended up working for UPS, which is the American logistics company. And a lot of the work I was doing, which was moving spare parts from China to Africa, um, I met the country manager of UPS, and we met socially. And he said, "Look, I need someone to help me because the UPS normally does letters and sort of parcels, but letters, the volume is dropping because everyone's sending emails. I'm showing my age
Yeah.
now, but everyone's sending emails, um, and so we want to get into more of a spare parts logistics business. And would you come in as a consultant and help us set that up?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So then I ended up, keeping the family business, the small business going. My dad took it on as a family business, and I moved into working with UPS and logistics. So again, continued in a corporate career, I guess. Worked with them for a few years in Africa, and then we decided we were going to move to China. So we just had our first son, and we weren't too happy growing up with a child in Africa. We said let's move somewhere else, and so we moved to China where my dad was with the business, but I stayed in a corporate career. So I moved from UPS, then worked with Capgemini in a consulting role, but again, supply chain logistics, that became my expertise. Worked with them for several years, 4 years in China, running logistics for companies like Volvo out of China,
Wow.
and then moved to
Wow.
DHL. Again, same sort of same sort of thing, expertise in logistics and supply chain, and work with DHL in Hong Kong. By this point, two kids now, and they're growing up. And we said, well, we need to get back to an English-speaking place so we can get them into a good school. And so we came back to the UK and I took a transfer with DHL and worked with them in London. So that sort of corporate career path, specializing in logistics and supply chain, took me to a few places, but eventually back to the UK. And then we got to a point where the family business had grown, and my brother-in-law had joined my dad, and they were doing really well, and they were doing the Uber business. And they said, "Do you want to come in and let's keep growing this business together, and we want to grow it in the UK?" And that's when I sort of joined the family business again. So I hated it when I started it in the 20s. Um, but in my 40s, it was actually the right time because now I had a lot of knowledge. I'd built up all this experience working in logistics and supply chain with corporates that I could then bring into the business. And so that
Yeah.
was the right time to come back to the business. And I was about 40 when I rejoined.
But I was going to say, as part of the kind of entrepreneurship journey, it's even like knowing from the stuff that I've done, you put yourself into different roles and you learn so much from those other roles. Like for whatever business, you learn how they do it, you learn what works, you learn what doesn't work, and obviously the more you move around in a way, the more you gain. And it sounds like in a way that you built 20 years worth of that experience to be able to then take with you and bring with you now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we pick up different things from different places, and you apply it into the business now, and it's working really well. Yeah, things I've learned throughout my time.
This sounds like a very busy schedule that you have, and it's just when do you get the time? So when's the time? How do you segregate the two things of work and pleasure for you and training and stuff?
That's a really good question. It's taken a lot of experimentation to figure this out. But what I've found is that I have a slot in the middle of the day where we finished all of our team meetings, we finished all of our work with the China team. They go to bed, and then around lunchtime, I have an hour to 2 hours where I can take some time off and train. And then I come back from training and I continue working with people in the UK or the US and that side of the world. So there's a natural slot there, a natural pause in the day. And I realize I can just about get out, get a workout in, get back, and then eat my meal while I'm in the next meeting. And the nice thing about it is it actually breaks up my day really well. It gives me a chance to reflect on the morning and the morning work. And often I'll come up with solutions to problems just getting to the gym or getting back from the gym, and that's really useful. And then the nice thing is I get my evenings back, which are really important for the family. Spending time with my wife, spending time with the kids, so it doesn't compromise that, but it's taken a while to find this routine.
Yeah, I was going to ask that with regards to family. Actually, obviously, I would imagine that there's been a lot of sacrifice and career choices that you've made, and trying to balance that with family life, and that is, I would imagine, been challenging at time, but have made it work.
Yeah, challenging at times. I mean, I remember when I was in Guangzhou in China, I was commuting an hour and a half each way to get to the office. So I didn't have as much time at home as I would have liked in the evenings. But the payoff is that now, as an entrepreneur, I'm very flexible. So I can do
Mhm.
the pickups, the drop-offs for school. I can decide I'm not going to do, obviously I'll let my brother-in-law know I'm not going to work this afternoon. I've got to go to, the kids' swim activity, or they've got sports day at school, or whatever it might be. So I think the payoff is now that I can enjoy that time with the kids.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point to highlight. And those who will listen to this, and the entrepreneur kind of journey, I think that we always look at, whether it be people like yourselves, that now you can do those things, but for a long time, actually, you couldn't, and you had to do the work to be seen.
Yeah. I lost half of that,
Sounds.
but I'll respond with I had a very good mentor a few years back, and he didn't call it work-life balance. He called it work-life integration. You've got to be able to do the things you need to get done for yourself and for your family in and around your work. And we've tried to bring that into our business as well. So we're predominantly a remote-first company, which means most of the team work from home, and we don't clock watch them. We don't say, are you at your desk, are you doing your work? No, it's you've got to get your work done, you've got to get it done on time, and it's got to be good, but you can choose to work whenever you want. If your best working time is at 10 o'clock at night, then work 10 o'clock at night. If you want to go to the gym in the day, go to the gym in the day. You do what you have to do, for yourself and for your family, and family first is our first value, in our business, as long as you get your work done, and you schedule it yourself. And that seems to work really well. The flip side of it is, I have to respond to, WhatsApp messages at 11 o'clock at night when Australia wakes up, and you know you have to do that. Um, but we don't have strict timings in our business.
Have that ever brought challenges for you? I would imagine that there's the odd time, or whether it be a person maybe who's taken advantage of that. Has that been something that's happened over the years? And
Yeah, it can be a challenge. I mean, when you're in a small business, they say everyone has to carry their own bags. Everyone has to carry their own weight. Okay. And it's very easy to see when someone isn't. And being a small business, you can't afford that person to stay. And so they don't last very long if they're not carrying their own weight. Um, the nice thing is we've got a fantastic team. Everyone's working really, really hard, and everyone gets on with it because they've got the freedom and they've got the trust that goes with it. To get the job done.
get the job done. Yeah, exactly. And the mentoring, because I think it's very important as as a class, in even myself as an entrepreneur, that I too have had a mentor for the last 5 or 6 years, and the added value that it's given me has been huge. You mentioned your mentor. Is that something that you still do?
So I do some peer-to-peer mentoring. So I'm part of a business network, where we are in a forum. There's 8 of us. We're all business owners, and we learn and share from each other. So that's something that I still do. That's called the Entrepreneurs Organization. And then, as outside of that, I also mentor other people. And so recently I went and spoke to the six formers, about career and life choices. And one of them approached me and said, "I've got a business, that I'm doing. Would you, support me, mentor me?" And so I do. I did that for a while. I don't do it anymore, but yeah, I do sort of mentor outside of work as well.
It's such a nice thing to be able to give back, right? And help those, like, we've run the, I say, we've in certain things I've done, I've run that race, and there's other things I'm still running, and I guess the same for you. You've ran a lot of those races, and in some things still running too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I enjoy it. It's fun to coach and mentor people more so than, digging into Excel spreadsheets or whatever else I might have to do that day.
What would you say the biggest challenge that someone that you have mentored has brought to you? What do you find that, or the most common? What is the most common that an entrepreneur brings to the table?
Um, Entrepreneurs have a lot of ideas. And
Yeah,
sometimes that can be the challenge, is the lack of focus. They start one thing, it's going well, but hang on a second, I've got this other idea and it's really great. And it's like, well, why don't you finish the first one and get focused and knuckle down and get it done before you launch business number two and number three. So I think helping entrepreneurs focus is an important part of it.
yeah. I think it's a natural attribute of being an entrepreneur. Right? You have just so many ideas. Sometimes you just want to try and roll all of them and roll the dice and see what works. But you're right,
Yeah.
focus
It, it
is
it's
very
a problem we have too. I mean, we've sort of taken the business. We've got our core business, and then we'll try something new over here, and we'll try something new over there. And sometimes it works out, but sometimes it doesn't. And you have to go back to what's the core business? What are we really good at? Let's just keep doing that.
yeah. Yeah, it's just something that runs in our DNA. And you mentioned about spirituality in the notes that you sent back to us. Explain to us a little bit about what that means to you.
Um, what it means to me is that, well, first of all, that there is some sort of higher power out there, that there is a force out there that's bigger than we are. And I think that recognition is important to me. And then sort of from the learnings that I have, we go to Sunday school, to learn about Hinduism and spirituality. There is that we are all connected to that one force, and in fact, we are all part of it. And it's recognizing that within each and every one of us, that we're all part of something much bigger, much greater. Um, I think that's really important to me. And then the other sort of big learning is that our purpose in life is to be happy. It's a
Mm.
very positive thing for me, spirituality. It's you are meant to be happy. You are happiness. You are bliss in yourself. And it's how do you recognize that state day to day? How do you help yourself appreciate that actually your true nature is to be happy?
When did you find sound?
But I'll answer anyway.
When, when did you find this spirituality, or has it always been with you along this journey of life and entrepreneurship?
It's always been in the background. It's always been there because it's part of our community, but it's not something I've actively participated in until more recently. And around 4 or 5 years ago, we got to a point where the kids were interested, and they were asking questions about life and purpose and things like that. And at the same time, an opportunity came up where our community center did a full renovation, and we're now welcoming people back in and starting to do Sunday classes. And we said, okay, well, let's sign the kids up for Sunday class. And together with that, the parents get to go for a class while the kids are in class. And so started to learn a bit more about the Bhagavad Gita, the message behind it, and what's involved. So I'd say about 4 years ago, really got into it. And now I'm also sort of volunteering on the committee and helping them, um, you know, grow as a mission.
So the children are also too involved in that spirituality now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And my wife too. And it's something that we do as a family, which is really nice. We do it together. We're all interested in it. And for the kids, it gives them a lot of mental strength. Um, to know that problems they have in life, that there are places they can go to talk to people or ideas and concepts to help them deal with it. So at their age, it's much more about mental wellness than anything else.
Yeah, building an element of that resilience for the future and the challenges that they're going to face later on, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right.
They're at prime. positively or negatively influenced. So we're trying to get as much positivity around that as possible, right?
Yeah, correct. So, and even the community of kids that they get to spend time with is all
Yeah.
very positive.
Yeah. I saw the interest of that you mentioned about sailing. Um, is that something as a personal, as a hobby, or is that something that came about with time in the army or anything like that?
It's probably the one sport that I've kept through most of my life and pursued to a pretty decent level. So I started sailing when I was 9 years old in Nigeria in West Africa. I took it as a sport at school and competed in the school circuit in the UK.
Oh,
So competed against other schools, and it's a really nice sport. I mean, it's called team racing, and it's dinghy sailing, and you have three boats against three boats.
okay.
So you're sort of racing against another school or another team and trying to get your boats ahead of them, in the race. It's very strategic though, because you can trap another boat to help one of your teammates get through and that sort of thing. So super interesting. I sailed at university. I sailed with the military, and I taught sailing as well when I did sort of summers as a camp counselor, sort of in the US, just teaching that. Nowadays, don't get to do as much, but I have got my yachting license. So if we want to do a CrossFit, away week in the Mediterranean, I can skip her a boat and we can all go do that.
That that would actually. I have actually been sailing before. I went to the Greek islands many years ago, and it's actually a very good to be essentially living on a boat for 2 weeks and stop island hopping and stuff. Um, might take you up on that offer actually, Sid.
Sure.
Uh, I'd like to sail the boat or yacht very, very quickly, but not legally, let's say, uh, without the license, just making do. But it was a great experience. Great experience. And rock climbing is something that you do too. Is that something you still do?
Yeah, it's something I do. I do it from time to time. The kids love it; they really like it. I don't know if you're familiar with Harrowwall, which is in sort
Yeah.
of North Harrow. Um, Fantastic facility. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest in the UK. And so when they opened up, we got the kids into it and enrolled in it, and they love it. So yeah, I enjoy bouldering and just sort of messing about there. It's good fun.
There's tennis on there too. How what's the relationship like with tennis? A very big fan of tennis, or is it very casual?
It's very casual, very casual. It's only on there because I also should be doing some social, stuff. Whereas rock climbing can be quite solo sometimes. So yeah, I should be a bit more social. So I started playing tennis. I've always played a little bit of racket sports throughout my life, and then again, I mentioned I'm goal oriented, right? So I got an email through from my son's school to say there's a parent-son tennis tournament. Would you like to sign up? And so we did, and so I'm playing in that tournament in 3 weeks' time. I haven't played tennis
Amazing.
in over a year, so I said, right, I need to get back into it. So I've organised a couple of lessons just to get back into playing over the next few weeks, and then we'll see how we do in the
Yeah.
tournament. Yeah,
That's very impressive. The tennis is a great game, but it's so. I mean, like most things, it is so orientated around technique. Right, you can hit a ball really well, and you can hit a ball really, really bad.
100%. Yeah, so I've got a coach, and he had a session on Monday. I haven't played with him for a couple of years, and he said, "Oh, you're doing okay. You haven't forgotten everything I taught you." And then he taught it all to me again. So obviously I had. Um, but yeah, I've got a couple of sessions booked in with him, get the technique right. It's not about strength. It is very much about technique. If you can connect, with the right mechanics with the ball, um, it makes a huge difference.
I would imagine actually it's actually probably very similar to tennis in the sense of coordination and not necessarily about power, more about technique and timing. Actually, having
Yeah.
thinking about
The,
that.
he was
What's
explaining a
the
lot of body mechanics, to me. He's like, the way the way that you lift your arm when you serve, it's all about trying to go with your body's movement
Right.
naturally, and not try to fight against the natural momentum you can create with your arms.
Mm. Yeah, it's a great sport. It's fantastic to watch when Wimbledon's on the telly. When the sun's out, it's great to get to courts. If weather permitting, I'll bring my racket in, and if we get a chance, we'll have
Yeah.
a game. It's a fantastic sport. Um, what's the plan for you and your fitness journey for the next few years, or long term goal now?
Look, for me, it's all about longevity. That's the most important thing. I hit 45 this year. It's on my mind. Obviously, age shouldn't be a thing, but it is. And it's about how can I just continue to stay fit, to keep doing all the things that I love. Spending time with the family, spending time with the kids, and all of these activities. And so, what do I need to do, to do that? So that's what it's about. There's no other particular goal. I thought the Open was interesting. I did that after only having done CrossFit for a couple of months. So it was a good way to benchmark. And I see that as a baseline this year to improve on next year, because I don't think I did as well as I would have liked to. So it's a nice way to measure. And so I'll probably keep doing that.
Good, good. And with it being on one hand very new to you, what would you say to someone who is in a very similar position to you, in order to take part in it? What did you get back from it in terms of what lessons, or how much did you enjoy it? Let's say.
So the CrossFit itself, I think, first of all, is a really nice community. And I really like the support that we get from everyone, both other people participating as well as all the coaches. I love the friendliness. I love the atmosphere. All of that is very positive, and I like that. So I'm looking forward to turning up for a lesson, as opposed to when I was going to the gym on my own to press weights. I wasn't looking forward to anything. I was just going because I had to go. So that's
Hmm.
that's different, and that's really, really nice. So a lot of encouragement, a lot of community, and you know that's good. And the other thing is, what I've learned is, all I have to do is turn up, because when I turn up, I will work hard, or I will be encouraged to work hard, and I get a lot out of it. So as long as I can get out the door, and head down to the gym, I will have a good day, and a good workout. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, I think it's very important for people to understand that actually just showing up is half the battle, and the rest will look after itself.
Yeah.
And thanks, to be honest. Last question before we end the podcast. I asked you obviously about where you're going with your fitness. So what about Kinara International? Where is that? What's the direction for you there? And what yeah, place you're on going.
So with the business, I mean, what we do is, and we've recently just done an acquisition, in our business, where we've added a design team. So we've now got electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, so we can design brand new products. And we've got a license to design medical products as well, which is pretty cool. So there's some stuff we can do in the medical industry that's really, really nice, and we'd like to do more of that. We'd like to help our clients design new products to help people, and help them on their sort of health and fitness as well. So that's an interesting space. And in our business, because we can now design products, that means we can design them, we can manufacture them in mass production, we can ship them out all over the world and distribute them for our clients. So we run the whole end-to-end supply chain. And we do
It's
that
almost like
at the
the
moment.
entrepreneur.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, it was just the whole entrepreneurship journey, almost starting all over again, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we just sort of added pieces to our offering, so we can now offer the full spectrum. So our clients, if you had an idea, Lorenzo, for a new product, once you've had that idea, we would help you design it, prototype it, sample it. You can take it, test the market. We can then mass produce it for you. We can ship it anywhere in the world. We can warehouse it. We can build you a web shop to sell it, and we can then, pick, pack, and distribute it to all your customers. So you never have to touch the product again. Once you've had that idea, we can take the whole end to end of it. And we do that at the moment for about 20 clients. And we love working with interesting clients, interesting people, and we'd love to take that from 20 to 100. How can we do the same thing for 100 really great brands and help them take their products from design to implementation and distribution?
Wow, what a conversation! I could talk to you all day. There's so many amazing things to learn and some great experiences. Um, Sid, thank you very much for your time. I'm sure that people are going to enjoy this just as much as I.
Thanks very much, Lorenzo. Really enjoyed chatting with you, and happy to talk again or more anytime.